Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back, Force here, and today we'll be checking out Papo Yo. This is a third-person puzzle platformer that originally launched on the PlayStation 3 back in August of 2012. The game just came to PC, and here in this video I'll be showing you some gameplay from the PC version, as well as giving you my general thoughts and impressions on the game. So let's go ahead and hop right in here as we check out Papo Yo. Now, as we get started here, I want to give you guys just a little bit of a backstory about this game, because this isn't a traditional puzzle platformer. As you can see here, to my mother's brothers and sisters with whom I survived the monster in my father, and that is coming from Vander Caballero. He is the creative director of this game. It was developed by Minority, a Canadian developer, and the game is actually meant as an allegory to his life. Vander lived with an abusive and alcoholic father. Now, obviously, that is quite a mature story to be telling, and you know, it's one of those things where this is the sort of game that isn't as much about the puzzle platforming as it is about the narrative, as it is about experiencing the story and the world surrounding that story. Now, while it is a dark theme and a mature theme, the game is played in this vibrant world, and we're starting from a brand new game, starting from the very beginning, because I think this will be a good opportunity to introduce you to the story without spoiling much of it for those of you who would like to experience most of it on your own. So let's go ahead and hop right in here. This is our main character who we navigate the world with, and it's a puzzle platformer. In terms of the gameplay aspect, you move around solving puzzles and platforming. As simple as it gets. In fact, the gameplay is quite simplistic, and looking at reviews of this game for the PlayStation version, some people said it's even too simplistic. And you know, that's a fair assessment, because after playing this game for a little bit, I would agree it's quite simplistic. It's not a very difficult puzzle platformer, but again, that's not what this game is trying to do. It's not trying to provide you with the most difficult platforming experience and the hardest puzzles, although some of them can get quite difficult as you move later on in the game. It is, once more about the story. So while a lot of times when I make these videos I focus on the gameplay mechanics, there really aren't much to speak of, so I'm just going to focus more on the world and the story with you. And we do have this right here, these little hint boxes. As you come up to puzzles within the game, you'll be presented with these hint boxes to help you figure out how to move along. Although a lot of times they aren't entirely necessary, because a lot of the puzzles are relatively self-explanatory. Now, there are a few additional mechanics that we'll be introduced to here as we make our way through. You get things like a little robot buddy, and you also have to deal with the monster, which is the allegory for his father. Sometimes things are great and he's happy, and other times he's quite an angry fellow. Now, I will say the setting of this world, I really like it aesthetically, you know. It sort of really reminds me of the Spanish favelas, I believe that's how you pronounce it. I'm sorry if that is incorrect. Favelas. Just sort of the downtown areas, if you will. And I'm not sure if this is, and I do apologize for not knowing this, I'm not sure if this is Spanish or Portuguese in nature. I believe it's one or the other, though. Okay, so you move around the world and you are just going to find these painted objects on the walls that you interact with. And as you can see, I could pull this all the way if I wanted to, or you can even just go part way as long as you've got enough to make it past the area that you need to go through. And you are, I am interacting with that using either E or left mouse button is how I actually grab on and interact with that object. So we'll just be moving our way through here. We are chasing that mysterious girl to find out exactly what's going on in this world. And I'm going to spend a lot of time just sort of looking around with you guys, just to enjoy and see the environment. And we have accessed a little tunnel here. You know, something I found that I have really enjoyed about this game, besides the, I find the visuals pleasing and the world pleasing. I really like the audio in this game as well. Not a ton of direct speech, but more so the sounds with the environment, along with the music that is played. And we've got this that we can interact with, which is going to whoop, ring out this little string, which we can interact with as well. Before we do that though, I do want to show you these little frogs. This might be one of the darn cutest things that I've ever seen in a video game. Come here, froggy. Come here. So you can get up to him and you can pick him up with E. And look at how you carry this thing around. Look at that. Oh man. That is just too funny. Imagine if frogs were really that big and you could, I guess if you're small, you could find some huge toads like that. I find that so humorous. Okay, so let's go ahead and grab onto that. Enough of that here. And where you can now pull this out and manipulate the world. And this sort of world manipulation is another part of this game that really, really shines through and something that I really, really enjoyed. It actually reminded me a lot of Tiny and Big, Grandpa's Leftovers. I believe that is the full name of the game. Tiny and Big's Adventures, Grandpa's Leftovers, I think that was the name. That was another sort of adventure puzzle platformer game that had a lot of world manipulation that I really enjoyed as well. Not quite to that extent with this game, but there is some. And we'll just be making our way through here. Nice little paintings on the wall. And here's a really, really cool... We've got these little cardboard boxes here that have some paintings representative of housing, and look at what happens when we lift them up. Yep, that's right. And as I move around, this will move around as well. Now obviously there's a clear place we're supposed to put these, which is right on top of there. But you could just sort of move around with them and, you know, I could drop it right here if I wanted to. Now I don't want to because I'm trying to make it across to the other side, but that's a pretty neat mechanic. That is a pretty cool mechanic when it comes to world manipulation. Now I took a look at some videos from the PlayStation 3 version. I think it goes without saying that the PC version here looks better. That is definitely the case. One thing I did notice that was a frustrating problem was also a problem with the console version, and that was some random frame drops. Like randomly the FPS will just drop a tremendous amount. Now that could be partially attributed to saves taking place, or loading rather, of upcoming areas. A lot of times when you have a game that doesn't have a lot of load screens, they just try to load in the background, and sometimes the result is frame dropping, and I'm sort of assuming that that's where it's coming from. It's not the most elegant way of dealing with things, but you can in fact notice it right here. Notice just how choppy that gets, as we're assuming that it's just loading up the next area. So it's one of those things, you know, what would you rather deal with? Some drop in frames temporarily, or have to go through a loading screen, you know? And I think a game that really did it well, actually, is, I don't know if any of you watching this played Tomb Raider, but in Tomb Raider, the way they loaded upcoming areas was while you were going through these little tight spaces, the loads would be taking place in the background. So that's the sort of thing you can do if you have sort of a scripted event, to have the loading take place during that event. Okay, so we're presented with another puzzle here. We've got a few things, and again, we obviously know what to interact with because it's clearly depicted. And over here we've got a little timed gate that will close after a set amount of time, so we've got to find our way over there. Now, as of now, we can't make it all the way across. We still have that little gap, and it looks like that house is the house that we need to get to. So how do we solve this puzzle? Well, let's just start interacting with things and see what happens. So we turn the key, and what happens? Oh, the house just sprouts some legs and moves itself on over. And then we turn the next key, and we see what happens with that. And yes, again, house sprouting legs, moving over. That is a bit too funny. It's such a quirky world, and I do find it quite enjoyable. Let's connect those gears and get this going, build ourselves a nice bridge over there, allow us to get to that final house, turn the key, and see where that goes. So right now in the background you can hear, we've got some nice music picking up here. And let's bring those houses back now because it looks like we have finally found the connection piece that brings it all together. This one over here. And then lastly, this one over here. Alrighty. Open up the gate. The timer goes. And we make our way through. And there's our friend. What is she doing up there? Well, let's find out, shall we? We're gonna pull this back a little bit here. This will allow us to expose the backside of this house, which will allow us to interact with this now. Which opens up some staircases. And subsequently, we can push this back here and make our way towards our friend. I think she's our friend. Is she our friend or our enemy? Who knows? And another house to move. Wonderful. So again, we could do one of these things over here. We can move it over here. Where does it go? Well, we've got a little lever to pull here. So let's get that first. And I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the art style or the setting, or at least the tone that it gives, but I get it gameplay-wise, nothing even close to it, but I get a feeling that reminds me of Prince of Persia as well. It's probably just the setting, right? I guess that'd make the most sense, because obviously the game, oh darn it, because obviously this is not Prince of Persia gameplay, not even close. So it might just be the setting, the general theme, and also some of the music giving me those vibes as well. Okay, so I think that's gonna be close enough here. Come on, there we go. So I mean, that was probably the first difficulty that I've had this entire playthrough when it comes to the platforming aspect. Again, quite simplistic in nature. And what is she doing? Uh-oh, something's happening. These little moments will be scattered throughout the game, sort of, I guess, what we would call flashbacks. Or foreshadowing. I guess it's one or the other. Being brought back to reality, I suppose, is the best way to put it. So we've got this little slow-mo scene. Sort of reminds me of Max Payne. Kid in the back seat. Grown up in the front. Is that supposed to be Vander and his father? I don't know. Do you guys know? I mean, it's deep, right? It's mature. Maybe I'm being all high and mighty, artsy-fartsy here when I say that, but that's just my opinion. That's what I gather from it. Comparatively speaking, to many other games, to most video games, which are meant as nothing more than consumable entertainment, nothing that you really rarely ever have to reflect on. So this is my robot friend, and this introduces some new mechanics to the gameplay, other than interacting with the objects and jumping. Well, actually, I guess it just does the same thing, but allows you to jump and interact in a different way. In fact, that's exactly what it does. So it's still just interacting and jumping, but now we've got a little buddy to assist us to allow for some more complex puzzles. And let's check the hint box to see exactly what he does here. So this is Lula, my awesome robot. Hold down space to hover in the air, and that's it. Lula lets me hover. So Lula, come with me. And now we've got the ability to jump further. Just like that. Notice again a little bit of frame choppiness here. Now Lula also can help us interact with objects from a distance. So now Lula says, hey, point me to an object. Tell me to interact with it, and I will go. Lula moves out. Lula opens up the gate. And then we go forward. And once again, Lula moves out, opens it up. Let's see what happens here. Those two will switch. Let's do this one as well. This moves up. All right. Starting to get the hang of this here. And then we'll hit that one again. And the music's picking up again. And I dig it. Rock on. And here we are back once more. You guys remember this area? So a lot of times, it's not backtracking so much, but you'll go through areas once more, but you'll be approaching it from a different way. So it is reusing the same areas, but now instead of having to deal with that puzzle, I'm actually riding a giant house ant. And the houses are gonna move out of the way for me. You know, it's a personal taste thing. I find this really endearing. I like it, I really do. And it's a whole combination of things. It's knowing the story, or not, I don't know the entirety of the story, but knowing the premise of the story and the visual aesthetic and everything. It's just, for me, it's something I find entertaining and enjoyable. Let's go ahead and move that pipe there. And then we'll be brought back through. Let's send Lula out again to move it once more. And head back this way. A little robot buddy to help you out. And that drained the water back in the area that we just were a moment ago. And coming up around the corner, we'll be introduced to another major aspect of this game and of the story as well. And that is the monster. The monster who's addicted to consuming frogs. Obviously, the clear reference there is the father addicted to alcohol, the monster addicted to frogs.
Lula.
And while normally the monster is a happy friend, when frogs come into the picture, he turns into an angry enemy. And I guess that's the gist of it. I mean, if we were to summarize Papo Yo in a couple of words. Oh, monster. I'd like to help you. I just want to be your friend. Why do you have to make life difficult? That's a good question. Monster. Oh, where are you going? Come back here, monster. And he just went down. Now we can go over here just to show you. He basically went down into this little hut here. And, you know, it's not one of those things where you can interact with things like this, like you would assume, oh, I can open this hatch, right? No, it's pretty much, unless it's highlighted in white, you can't really interact with it. Which is, I think, one of the major things in this game that makes it so simplistic is it's quite obvious in that nature. You know, I don't have, you know, we don't have text coming up and telling us exactly what to do every single moment, but you always know what you can interact with, and then you just have to use that to sort of figure out how to solve that upcoming puzzle, right? Okay, so we just need to head up here now, grab this one, and what you will see is some more magic. That feels needlessly slow to me. So now we've got these little floating blocks here. There's 1 and 2. Oh no. What are you doing? Get over here. So, what you will see is, watch this. Get over here. And now that she's trapped, we go like this. Whoops. So she's trapped, and she didn't like that. Well, that's what you get for stealing my block, lady. Endearing, that's the word I would use to describe Papo Yo. At least at its early onset. All right. And here we go through another checkpoint. And I'd like to just take you through, guys. I'd like to take you guys through a little bit further in the game, because there's a few more interesting things coming up that I'd like you to see. But to be honest with you, I think by now you've got a fair idea of what Papo Yo is all about. And if it's a story that you're interested in experiencing, I think about now is when, you know, you've got a clear idea of that, of the story, the premise, what's going on in the world. And here's the monster, guys. Hello, you. So we can just hang out on top of him. He's our friend, right? I mean, he's tired, but he's still our friend. Oh man, I don't know. I think it's neat. I do. Hello. Wake up, monster. Wake up, monster. Why don't you wake up? What's wrong with you? Alright guys, so this has been Force checking out Papo Yo. Once again, the game originally came to the PlayStation 3 back in August of 2012. It is now available on the PC. Let's check our hint box. You can climb on Monster's belly while he's sleeping. Move the camera to look where you want to jump, and then jump super high. Silly monster. Now, if you guys would like to give the game a look, once again, on Steam, you can pick it up for $14.99 is the current asking price, although they do have a little bit of a sale going on right now. I think it's like 10% or something along those lines. It's a few bucks less than what it was, than what the full asking price is. So, give it a look. Oh, there's all sorts of fun things that we can do. We need Monster to stand on that. How do we get Monster to stand on that? Well, we gotta give him some treats. That's the deal. All right, my friends, thanks again for watching this checkout of Papo Yo. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you like the content, please subscribe. And as always, keep watching and keep owning. Come here, monster. I need to set up a trail of these delicious treats for him. So why don't we do that, Give him reason to come out and explore. Monster. Come on, monster. Can we make them regrow? Ah, you silly monster. Ha ha ha. Wake up, kind sir. Follow me. Come here, come here. Yeah, I know. You love your treats. You love your treats, monster.